I'm Marlon with OPROD Kids. In our debut review of this MARK-5 11.5 upper receiver group, we decide if it is suitable for deployment to hostile environments. To make this determination, we apply ORC's AAA criterion, assessing the weapon's performance in accuracy, adversity, and adaptability. 2 disclosures. First, I am an employee of Ballistic Research and Machine. Our suppressors are featured in this video. Second, half a year ago, I was introduced to the MARK-5, where I met and later befriended the designer Paul Leitner-Wise. While I will assure you that my loyalty is to the man on the ground, the men and women in the arena, I am biased, and you should be aware of that. All right, what we've got here is a no shit MARK-5 11.5 upper receiver group. This carbine, as it's configured, resembles something that would be carried by a member of a bodyguard, perhaps a military advisor overseas. It's compact, lethal, and yeah, I would definitely take this across the pond. From the front end, got a Ballistic Research and Machine ARQA 556 suppressor. Flashlight that I've attached is a Mod Light OKW. It's mounted with a Overbore Systems swivel. We frequently use their products. So a regular defense hand stop. And then this red dot is typically a pistol dot. And what I mean by that is that's what it was originally designed for, but it's also got a 3-minute of angle reticle, just a single dot. But this is the PB3. It was provided by Lead and Steel. It's held up very well. It's gone in and out of the water. So yeah, very impressed with this thing. I'd probably do another review on that. And then of course, upper receiver group. Lower receiver is a Colt carbine. Colt carbine lower assembly. I've got a 3-ounce buffer, and then this is a B5 soft mod stock ergo grip. Nothing crazy. So yeah, if I missed anything, I did. This is a non-traditional assessment of accuracy with this MARK-5 11.5 upper receiver group. So I'm gonna aim at a 2-inch box and put 10 rounds within 30 seconds. The rifle is as equipped. The only support is this bag on a tripod. And the cartridge I'm using is M855. Yes.
I think you'd do better with that gun.
Clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 shots, got 2 in the box. Group's a bit wider, but again of note, this is a Lead and Steel PB3, typically a pistol dot. So it's a 3 MO8 dot, and I'm putting that against a 2-inch box under the pressure of time. Could you tell that I performed a mud test while the camera shut off? Well, in case you didn't, there's some lovely filth down here, Dennis. Mud tests are a bit of showmanship from gun manufacturers. However, I find them valid. The reason is, whether you're in Arizona, Iraq, Somalia, those environments that are often perceived as arid get very muddy during their monsoons, their rainy seasons, and I know that firsthand. So it is important for the operator to have confidence that their weapon might perform being recovered from a ditch, vehicle rollover, something where there's a lot of mud involved and not a lot of time to get it back into a proper condition. All right, muzzle looks clean. So I packed a lot of mud over the self-regulating system, get a little more mud here over the spring cup. There we go. Okay, ejection board's covered. And hopefully this is recording. So, okay. Oh, she's stuck. Not going in the battery. Let's try. This might be a magazine failure too. Put you on safe. No, magazine's good. So the issue here is it's not going into battery. So remedy that. We're gonna give it a little bit of bath. Oops, yeah, wrong direction there. I'm trying to get you out of the barrel extension. All right. There's a lot of crap in there. If I was to wager what caused the bolt carrier, the bolt not to go into battery was this buildup of debris on this plug, preventing the OPROD from going forward and allowing the bolt carrier and bolt to follow. So a little bit there. So we're going to clean this up, all right, and then put the upper receiver back together. This is a little outside the maintenance of an operator. I did have to put this in a vise, so I secured this in the vise and then, you know, just gave a good pull on the OPROD to break it free. Now, granted, this is just like, I don't know, an hour after shooting. So I think if this were to soak overnight, maybe wouldn't have had to put it in a vise, but I'm eager to get this thing firing tomorrow. We've returned to the pit to continue mission and write an operator's manual for the Mark V as we go. So if you find yourself operating a Mark V or similar VK1 rifle, yesterday the stoppage occurred at the site of self-regulation. So this OPROD slides over a plug that's got rings. Now those rings are designed presumably to break up carbon. So that's the self-cleaning. On this system and similar short strokes, however, yesterday there was an intrusion of bog shit and it built up on those rings. The OPROD wasn't able to fully enshroud or just cover that plug, and it prevented the bolt from going to battery. So I had to remove the handguard, and I could not, on site, and I could not manually pull the OPROD back because it had seized up from all the other bog shit that got in there. Also, that was kind of problematic because with the bolt out of battery, that means the bolt carrier is a little further back towards the buffer tube, and it makes separating the receivers hard. So not a situation you want to find yourself, and my recommendation is that you find a weapon like this in the mud. Your priority is to address this right away. Don't go into firing. You know, do what you can, break it, you know, give it a good shake. If you can, use some, you know, a light amount of water, but clear out this area and then go into firing. Yeah, that's what I have to say on that. Excited to continue shooting this today, showing you, we're going to go over rate of fire and recoil, some other things today, I plan for filming. But from here, I'm going to cut to a scene where I explain the self-regulation, because that's a lot of the reliability and what impresses me about this weapon is that self-regulating system, especially its like symbiotic relationship with suppressors. Because as the you know, this gas operation is trying to equalize, it's very gradual, and that's great for suppressors. Because to compare it to a HK416, it puts out it purges a very, not very, but a supersonic blast of exhaust forward usually, and that is unmanaged sound. So no matter what you put in front of the barrel, suppressor-wise, unless it's going to, you know, take that supersonic dump and also put that through a set of baffles, you have a very loud noise. But in case of this is hearing safe, okay, in a short barrel configuration. So it impresses me a lot. Without further ado, we're going to cut to that video. This is 6 staggered holes. The front 3 cycle the weapon, last 3 purge any excessive gas, and then here's a good look at the barrel profile. So it's very heavy profile, but it's been deeply fluted and chop peen, so it's really what we like to see on a high-end barrel for a carbine. I'm going to continue discovering what this self-regulating gas operation can do. I've equipped a Knights NT4 flash hider, so I'm going to put 5 rounds unsuppressed, and then I'm going to equip one of their reduced gas NT4 suppressors, another 5 rounds, and then use a legacy sealed suppressor. All the while, there's no adjustment on this, so this is a self-regulating system. So I'm very curious to see how this performs going from unsuppressed to reduced gas or back pressure, and then a fully sealed can. So 5 rounds unsuppressed. Yeah. Okay. Right, I'll let this cool down. Oops, a little too much water there. So for the understanding of all viewers, I've added a Knights NT4 legacy suppressor that's fully sealed. So by design, there's nothing that reduces the back pressure, okay? This is just for sound reduction. And we're gonna see how that pairs with the self-regulating system. So 5 rounds. Ooh, spicy. So with the legacy suppressor, punched the man just a bit more. There was some gas that was coming out of the ejection port that was filling into my eyes. And then I noticed the ejection pattern got a little closer to 1 o'clock. But otherwise, still a very controllable weapon, okay? With an 11.5-inch cold hammer forged, gorgeously fluted barrel, this upper receiver group enlists itself for automatic fire. We're 10 meters away from 2 splatter targets. We'll assess the rate of fire and recoil. And I want to call out, if in case I haven't before, this lower receiver, besides being fully automatic capable, is retaining a 3-ounce carbine buffer. This is about as light as you'd go on an AR-15. Right, let's make sure you are recording. Adding a ballistic research machine ARQA 556 suppressor. It's all titanium, very light. This entire setup right now is 8 pounds. So that's light for me. All right, let's go full auto left target. At first glance, this is just a handsome, silvery smooth bolt carrier group. But there is more than meets the eye with the long advanced bolt carrier. At the boat tail, and for those not familiar, boat tailing on piston carriers mitigates carrier tilt. But there's fluting, and I attribute this fluting to the success we had in the maritime environment, especially considering that my lower receiver, specifically at the extension, there's no drilled holes for drainage. So I believe these flutes assisted in preventing hydrolock of the weapon. In front of the anvil is a cam pin. Now the cam pin has an arrow engraved. Why is that unique, special? Well, I have no way of measuring this, but the logic is sound that if you continuously reinstall this component in one direction, the wear is going to be consistent. That removes slop at the higher round counts. Logic is sound. I have no way of measuring it, but I think that's a good practice. But also at the cam pin is a track. This track is patented by Paul Leitner-Wise, and the bolt at top dead center, as it is now, unlocks 2 degrees further than a mil-spec or TDP AR-15. It is believed that is why this thing cycles so smoothly. And then, of course, the installed bolts. So this is where things are different than the VK1. On the Leitner-Wise guns, the Mark V, they feature the combat match bolt. On a VK1, uses a mil-spec AR-15 bolt. You can use an AR-15 bolt in this, but you're going to want to use this combat match bolt for a few reasons. In front of us right now is an M4 bolt. Now, if you take attention to the lugs by this extractor, you'll notice that there is a chamfer cut to make room for that extractor. So, where there is a lot of mechanical stress, we have lugs with less material. This is typically where bolts fail. In front of us now is a Leitner-Wise combat match bolt. Now, if you'll take attention to the identified area by the extractor claw, you'll see that on the combat match bolt, there's significantly more material. I mean, it appears as if there is a full lug there. This is promising for a higher service life and less probability of breakage, because where there is significant mechanical stress, you have more material. Also, within the long advance bolt carrier group is a titanium firing pin. This is a controversial material choice. Reasons that someone might oppose a titanium firing pin is the belief that it may break in conjunction with other non-titanium metal, as well as its effect on reciprocating mass. Now, I have several thousand rounds to the Mark 16 and just over 1,000 to date with the 11.5. I have experienced no issues, so take that for what it's worth. I do find this entire bolt carrier group to be very smooth. I think there's a high chromoly account. I have no way of analyzing the metallurgy involved or the alloy, but in my experience as the shooter, this is very smooth. It's like the scene in Heat. Get in there. The Mark 11.5 is accurate. It performs well in adverse environments. But there's one marginal area that I have to call out. That is adaptability. Beginning at the upper receiver. This is machined from 7000 series aluminum and is very well made. There's just one issue. I believe this was a choice by the designer, a bit prideful statement to exclude a forward assist, and that is the belief that you don't need to operate an AR-15 with a forward assist if all the other components are smooth operating. Now, that works well in fair weather, but there are times where I found that even this nice long advanced bolt carrier group does meet some sluggish resistance once you've burnt off a good bit of the lubricant, or maybe you have a dirty magazine. Now, I find it easier to, break grip and press a button to bring that bolt in the battery than to completely dismount the rifle, charge it, and resume firing. So, for an armed professional, I think a forward assist is necessary. This polymer shell deflector, you can see it's getting a little bit loose. I'm not a big fan of that. I can understand that there was a choice to lighten the material here, but I think something that's machined into the receiver or forged is just one of those things you could leave there and forget about it. Because again, this thing's loose, you got this small screw. Now, is this really essential? No, you can operate this firearm without it, but I'd prefer to have all the components attached. Polymer ejection cover, no issue here. Now moving on to the handguard, is machined from 6061 aluminum. It is light but strong enough. It's also very intelligent. At the 12 o'clock length of the handguard is ventilation. This allows hot air and gas to evacuate upward. This is very good because the proximity of the OPROD is very close to the material on the handguard. The barrel is also present, releasing heat. So having these trusses in the intermediate areas between the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock M-lock is very brilliant, bringing in airflow and allowing gas and hot air to escape. Don't need to elaborate on that further. Now, the handguard attachment is something that I dislike. Before I carry on to that, this upper receiver might as well be mil-spec. The barrel extension, everything is AR-15 TDP. So there's nothing proprietary there. But back to the handguard, the attachment is with these, or one cross bolt, and then you have these 3 tiny screws that retain with the piston cup. Now, my problem here is that if I didn't say it already, we're underserving one armed professional, and that is the infantryman. If you need to remove this handguard, get under the hood for whatever reason, you need to remove these small screws. Small screws, especially with Allen heads, are liable to strip, and if you don't strip them, you may lose them just by setting them in your hat, or as other kind of places that soldiers and Marines will temporarily store hardware when they're disassembling weapons. So that's my concern there. Crossbolt, have no issue there. Another issue with these tiny screws is their effect on return to zero. Now, Leitner-Wise does not advertise a return to zero once this handguard is removed and reinstalled. We did our own testing and found that once we reinstalled a handguard, the attached laser had a point of impact shift of 9 to 10 inches, mostly vertical. I believe that's because of these screws. Even though I faithfully uniformly applied 15 inch-pounds to these little screws, I think that ever so slight difference in torque value was enough to throw the impact. That is just something to consider, that when you're operating this firearm and you perform any maintenance, that you will need to confirm zero on your attached optics, and will most likely have to make windage and elevation adjustments. Something unique to the Mark V is the powder marking on your support hand. If you don't like it, wear a glove. The Mark V is an exotic system. It needs to be completely understood to be truly appreciated. I am one of those individuals, but I cannot expect other professionals to immediately have that passion. Now, I was prepared to issue this a AA rating when I considered that once you're under the hood of this system, it is very easy to work on. The gas block is held in place with a cross bolt that's retained by a detent, just like a takedown pin on your lower receiver. There's 2 set screws that are removed with an Allen key, and then you have access to the OPROD and the piston cup. Everything's very easy to work with down there. So when I make that consideration, I certified the Mark V 11.5 AAA rated for high performance, accuracy, adversity, and passes for adaptability. The Mark V upper receiver groups comprise the finest AR-15s that I have ever shot. But I hope that Paul does not stop innovating with that compliment. I hope he adapts the Mark V to develop this country's best assault rifle. I believe that he can develop something a little bit heavier with more consideration for the infantry and aiming systems, and that's something that sheds more debris. So, it's my challenge to Paul. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like, subscribe. If you've got any ideas, you can comment, DM, email us. We'd love to hear it.